credit information laws. Now, another entity in this whole situation is a credit information corporations, which generally work with, if I say credit related issues, that will be pedantic, but that's what it is. So credit related, credit information corporations generally will do things like, they will collect a user's credit information, or when I mean credit information, they would see that what has been your financial behavior, and when I say financial behavior, it would mean that do you have loans, are you paying your loans in time, do you have a bank account, are you maintaining that bank account well, and not in terms of like how much money is there in your bank account, but in terms of your debit and credit sort of lending behavior, like whether you are a person with whose financial behavior has been responsible, or a responsible customer, or somebody whose financial behavior has not been great and has not paid his dues and all of that. Not paid, they have defaulted on your loans, defaulted on your credit card behaviors. So they do it for individuals. They do it for companies also. Similar things, whether a company has been defaulted in its payment, taken more loans against balance sheets, whether it is financially healthy, all of that. So generally, all of this credit-related information of individuals and corporations is collated, collected, kept, and updated with credit information corporations. And financial institutions like banks or non-banks, when they are making decisions as to whether they have to give you a loan or whether they do not have to give you a loan, they have to go through this CIC and they have to check your credit score or whatever. So something that I think you would generally be eventually heard of, your CIBIL score, that tends to come in really handy when you are applying for a loan or a credit card, or a debt, or a bank account. So CIBIL is one of the credit information corporations. All of us can go check our CIBIL score, see, and then they'll tell you whether, I think it ranks on bad, good, fair, whatever, and you have to have a certain amount of credit score to be able to take a loan of a certain amount. And sadly, if you have a better credit score, that means the more fraudulent calls you're going to get from banks or people offering you free loans, no interest loans. So that's just a disadvantage. Restriction on storage of card data and tokenization. Now, I'm not going to get into this a lot here because this is where it will get slightly confusing if we get into this here. But remember that we discussed that storing of financial information has been something that RBI has been really sensitive about. So with that concept in mind, there have been restrictions in who can store that information, how can it be stored, and where can it be stored. We looked at where when we looked at data localization. It meant that it can't be stored outside of India. With restriction, with say issues such as card on tokenization or card on file transactions, we will look at who and the how of that data can be stored. Basically, just that. So, when I say that, I think we'll just leave this here and we'll go into it later. Because when I talk to you about PAPG guidelines, I'll tell you what was the earlier situation, how much card data is being stored, and then we'll get into tokenization, what is card on file. Because all of these words they're slightly confusing. Similarly, with restrictions on card data comes EMandate. EMandate is that all of us understand it. EMandate as they apply to recurring transactions. So recurring transactions for every day would be OTT subscriptions that you undertake. You have a Netflix subscription. Every month the money gets deducted on its own. You don't have to buy it every month or say or you have cloud services that you're purchasing. You have updated your storage on your Gmail or your Apple or some games that you're playing online. So a recurring transaction would be transactions that happen on a specified period of time. SIPs also, every month that money gets deducted from your account. It's also a recurring transaction. So these e-mandates would be where you are giving an electronic mandate or an electronic direction to your bank that this merchant can deduct this much money from my bank account until I cancel that direction. And when I say direction, I mean mandate. So there are restrictions. So there are restrictions on how much money can be automatically deducted. It used to be like some 2,000, then it was increased to 5,000. It has to be on how this e-mandate is collected, and whether you get an OTP, whether you don't get an OTP is also happening. And there was a lot of industry pushback when this law was to come in and kept getting delayed by 3 months because people were not complying with it. We will also get into it with tokenization because they play out together.